Breaking news. Olympia has upped the ante by trading in his hot streaks for a fern to become the tickling champion of Wraith. Fresh and Buds now.
Fresh and
All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all my buds. It is episode 158, 3 years of Fresh and Buds today, and we are joined by an amazing bud, Pablo Pintor. How are you doing, my friend? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for inviting me again, and I'm extremely excited to be here sharing with you this third anniversary of this incredible program, and yeah, I couldn't be happier about it.
Oh, I mean, you don't know how happy I am that you're here because you're one of my favorites. I mean, and it's just when I thought you couldn't get any better, you start playing Riptide, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the perfect person. So we're going to have a great episode for you all this week. We're going to, catch up with Pablo, and then we're going to talk just a little bit about Rosetta and maybe some predictions and what we think and based on what we've seen so far. And yeah, we'll have a good time. But Pablo, what's new? How you been? How's the life of being, one of the best pros in the game?
Oh, I wouldn't say that much, but I am really happy because this year I have been able to play pretty much every major event, and I'm really looking forward to playing in Osaka Worlds. It's not only playing Worlds, traveling to another country, having a great time in there, but I am traveling to Japan, which has been a dream of mine since I was like 15-year-old. And this is the thing that I have always talked with my friends. We need to go to Japan when we turn 18. We need to go to Japan when we got more money. We need to, and it never happened. Sometimes it's too difficult, but it's wonderful that I have been able to finally do it with my friends while playing a card game. It sounds unreal that I am able to do this. And yeah, my life is really different to what it was 3 to 4 years ago, and I am extremely excited about this trip, and I'm even starting to feel nervous. My friends are already looking what we are going to do. We already have our Airbnbs, our hotels, the plane tickets, everything, and they are starting to look at what we are going to do each day, where we are going to travel. We need to go in there, switch, take the bullet train, go to another city, and yeah, it is amazing. I'm really happy that I was able to play both Pro Tours and Worlds this year, and while I haven't made the top in any of them, at least for now, I did have some pretty good results, and I'm really happy. It has been a pretty good Frozen Blood year. And I'm happy also that we got a nice little break after Pro Tour Amsterdam, and I am enjoying it to my fullest.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of funny. It felt like we were going nonstop with Flesh and Blood until Pro Tour Amsterdam. It was like so much was happening. There was even bans, and then, we had like this crazy, MST meta kind of bursts onto the scene, and then Pro Tour Amsterdam happens, and that was just like an epic tournament. And then we all get to take a step back. It almost feels like, typically I feel like we get those breaks in like December, not so much in August, but here we are, we're already kind of ramping back up with Tampa coming up in a couple weeks. And that's so awesome that it is a sentiment that has been shared by not only you, but like a lot of players that really always wanted to go to Japan. And it's just really cool that it's going to be a dream come true for so many people. It's going to be an awesome event. And I know that it's been an amazing market for Flesh and Blood so far. So I'm sure it's not the last event that we're going to see in Japan. So very exciting. Now, speaking of the Pro Tour Amsterdam, you did play Pro Tour Amsterdam, and you did take my boy Riptide. Now,
yes.
How was your experience in Amsterdam overall on the weekend, and what led you to the Riptide decision?
I had a wonderful time in there. I was a little bit sad because for most pro tours, at least in Europe, we normally have a lot of people from my team or friends of mine traveling there. It wasn't the case for Amsterdam. Amsterdam is pretty pricey. It's a pretty expensive place. Not a lot of people could have those days to play, and the ones that came could just stay like just for the tournament, not visiting the city.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the same experience we usually have, but I was surrounded by really cool people, even if they weren't like the people I normally travel with. It was a really cool experience. I had a lot of fun. I was feeling pretty, I would say, stressed before the tournament because, as you said, part of the Mistveil was a huge shift in the metagame. We saw Sen erupting in the game, destroying everything. It seemed so difficult to play anything that had game into Sen and didn't auto lose to the other part of the Mistveil heroes that the game sort of transformed into part of Mistveil, the card game, you know. We had Sen topping almost every event. Nu coming out on the second week of national season to try to battle him a little bit. So I played Nu at my nationals. I was happy with the deck, but I felt like I didn't have enough control over some games to feel like completely comfortable with the deck. You know, it's a really cool deck, but it does have its Runeblade hands, you know? Those hands where you draw attack reactions and a command and conquer and all reds and, you know, or full attack reactions or horrible hands all around. So I was not feeling comfortable with the deck, and one of these persons I was testing, Carlos Guerrero, he's a great player from Spain. He was playing this defensive fatigue Riptide deck. I don't know if you know the joke, but he calls the deck mid-range because it's half attacks, half defense reactions. So it must be the true definition of a mid-range deck, right? The deck is carrying 30 defense reactions, yeah. So at the first, I saw the deck and I thought it was a meme. Like, yeah, he must have done well at this tournament just because, I don't know, he must have had like good matchups or whatever. And I had this really, really bad week of testing. Sometimes it happens when you go into testing, you think you have a really cool deck. Oh, I have this extremely good idea, and then everyone destroys you. You say, okay, I will go back to my older idea. I will play Nu, and everyone destroys you. I will play Azalea, and everyone destroys you. I will play Sen, and you lose every mirror. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't know what I am going to do. And as a joke, I tried playing the Riptide deck. I built a somewhat similar version of the Riptide deck, and not only it did much better than I expected, I had a lot of fun playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And Riptide is a hero I have been wanting to play since it got spoiled back in Outsiders. And I was really upset when it came out and I played my first games with him because I was expecting a deck built around traps, right? It should be like, I don't know, the theme of the hero didn't fit the cards we got at that point in time, I believe. Like, the best decks were playing Death Dealer and just playing a bunch of buffs, and it didn't seem like a better option than Lexi or Rosalia. So when he has received these expansion slot cards over the sets, Murky Waters is probably the card that turned this deck into a real tier 1, I believe, deck into this meta. Or things like Half Globes or things like that. I thought it was just time to try the hero again, to see if we got a meta where he could shine, and I do think we are in that kind of meta. He's extremely good against Nu. He's really good against Sen. and he does pretty well against almost everything else. You auto lose to Withers. You auto lose to some builds of other decks. Prism can get really hard, but it does offer a really, really nice spread of matchups. And we are in a Flesh and Blood, I would say, era where you cannot play a deck that offers you a good spread against the whole spectrum of the metagame. Right? We have had metas where you could just pick Icelander, and your worst matchup could be like 40%. And yeah, that's nice. You could play, and you could be feeling confident against everything else, right? Or all dim or things like that. We are not in that meta game. If you choose new and you play against, an experienced Enigma player, for example, it will get really hard. Or if you play Sen and you come across Anusuri, as we saw in the Proto Amsterdam, bad things can happen to you, right? And yeah, I had to take a risk. I had to gamble a little bit, and I wanted to gamble with the big guy. The deck is extremely fun. I know this doesn't sound like serious, right? Like, is he talking about a deck with, half the deck are traps and the other half are 2/7s, 7 for 3? But yeah, I can assure you, at least I have a lot of fun playing that game. It offers you so many decisions. Trench is such a fun card to play with. Yes. I love Trench. I am a huge pirate fan. I did have talks with DM Armada and things like that on Twitter, and I have my extended art Trench ready for when the time would come, and it did come, and it felt amazing pulling off that card that has been sitting on my shelf for like 1 year. But it was really cool. I had a lot of fun. I did really well on the classic constructed format, and I ended up doing top 32, which is a really, really good placement on a Pro Tour. Not quite there, but I'm really happy with the result. And yeah, I only lost to Prism during the weekend against Chris Ayali, really good player with a really cool deck, and he also had some info about the deck, because one of the coolest things about playing Riptide on that tournament is that people were expecting an aggro Riptide.
Oh yeah.
And so you could, a lot of time they wouldn't sideboard correctly against you. But he had played against one of my friends with that deck earlier, so there was no surprise in there, and we lost that game. It was pretty cool, and I did draw one game, the first one of the tournament, with a little bit of drama, which I really don't want to repeat in here. But yeah. Pretty good. I had an awesome time in Amsterdam. Just feeling a little bit sad because this makes 2 tournaments in a row, 2 Pro Tours in a row, where with one more win, I could have been fighting for the top 8.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a really good result, but it stings a little,
Yeah. I understand it. It's like, it's just so tough. You gotta be just a little, like, you talk to any great player, any player that's won a Pro Tour, yourself, you need a little bit of luck, right? It's just
you need a huge deal of luck.
Yeah, it's just like you could play the best you ever played, but it just needs to go your way a little bit, and it is tough, when those margins are so tight. Now, it is also funny that you bring up Chris Ayali, because Chris played a very similar version of that Riptide at the Battle Harden in Minneapolis, and I think I had had him on the show right after, and I was like, oh, this like defensive Riptide, and then I think your list was a lot different, but like same ideas there, which is very, very cool. And it's also very funny that you say that you saw it and you're like, this is a bit of a meme, right? And then you play it and you're like, oh, because that reminds me of specifically what Michael Hamilton said when he first started playing the Bullander lists. Right? He was like, it seemed like a meme. I played around with it, and then it was like really good. So,
and then he broke the game.
Yeah. So it's just kind of funny when you see like patterns like that. The deck's kind of similar too, right? Like Riptide's probably the closest thing we have to Icelander right now. It could disrupt.
Right now, it's the closest. Yeah.
Um,
It is really cool when you just have to deal 20 damage to your opponent because they are losing 20 life to your traps, right?
oh yeah, yeah. It's so cool because then you get to count like how much more damage you have left in your deck, and you're just like, oh, like here we go. We're strapping in. Um, now you did an awesome deck tech on this deck, and I'll be honest with you, I've been playing the deck nonstop since you did that deck tech, and you put that on your Patreon. I believe you made it free for people to view,
Yeah.
but I do want you to tell us about the Patreon and what you're planning on doing there, because it's great to see, you know, players like you kind of create resources for people.
It has been a project of mine since quite some time ago, but I have always felt like, there are several things holding me back if I compare myself to other players or to other content creators because my first language is not English. At some point, you have to deal with this. I don't know how it's called in English. The imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not feeling like you deserve to be teaching someone or you're not as good as people think, right? But I had a really cool experience because one of my friends who wasn't playing Flesh and Blood wanted to get started into the game, and I had the first hand experience of teaching someone new the game, showing him the ropes, every trick, and he went to his first battle hardened and he almost made top 8. He went to a pro quest and he made top 8, and I saw him and I said, maybe I can do this with more people. Maybe I cannot insult them so much as I have done with this guy, but um, I do think I have something to offer, right? And my only problem is that almost everyone that knows me knows that I'm really bad with computers. I'm extremely bad with computers. I'm an old guy in a not so old body. I would have been really cool in the 80s.
Oh yeah,
Pretty cool guy.
you're
But
cool now, Pablo. Come on.
I do have my problems with things like editing programs or recording or things like that. So it has been a slow start for me. I'm really excited to record. I also do have some problems to have space to be able to record, but I'm happy that I have been able to solve that. And I'm really excited because I do think there are a lot of things we can discuss. My main idea for starting this Patreon, though, it was teaching people, giving classes to people trying to improve. I have had like a really cool experience with it because I have the pleasure of teaching people who aim to do so much differently, right? I had new players trying to improve. I have had really competitive, really good players trying to, sharpen their decks at the maximum level before a big tournament. And having both of these experiences and people in between, right? So having these experiences has been really cool for me, and I'm really excited with this project. I really want to be going at it, and yeah, the only thing is that my time is limited, and sometimes you just cannot do everything that you want. But it's really cool. It has been a really nice experience. I thought at first that it would probably fail, but I'm really pleased that it has not, and people have supported me. So I would say thank you to everyone that has been so kind.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, it was an excellent deck tech. I subscribed. I was like, all right, this is all I need to. This is all I need to hear, And deck techs are tough sometimes, right? And obviously, you're going to be doing other things on there as well. But like deck techs can be tough to kind of really relay information. I've done deck techs on the channel, and I don't know, maybe they're good, maybe they're not. I don't know. Because like in my head, I view these cards as one way, and this is how I interpret them, and I don't know if that's always the way that they should be interpreted, or if that's the best way for people to interpret them in general. It's kind of like when I did math in high school, I would show my work, and my teachers would be like, "How did you get the right answer?" I'm like, "Well, this is just what made sense to me, right?" But you had such a eloquent way of kind of explaining everything, and then also just making it very interesting to listen to. You mentioned Runeblade hands a little bit earlier, and I keep telling people the the joke that you made in the video that was, sometimes Riptide will get these Runeblade hands, and you're like, oh, Runeblade was a class in this game at one point, which is so funny. I implore everybody to check it out because, I always like to see stuff like this and get some support for some great people like you. So I appreciate you telling us a little bit about it. But before we hop right back into Flesh and Blood, when you were back on the show for the first time, we definitely talked about the Sunflower Samurais and how it's just like close friends playing games together, right? Which is like the coolest thing, right? You guys did a summer retreat recently, I saw on Twitter. How'd that go?
It was amazing. that is one of the things I am looking most forward during the whole year is our summer retreat. It's something we do every single year, and sometimes some people can come and or some year one has to travel with their family or with their significant others or things like that, or they have work. And the people that is going every year, where are we going? It's always changing, and that makes it like really interesting. And we had a really really cool time. I was able to escape a heat wave here in my town, and I spent a whole week switching between being on the pool and playing board games or watching movies with my friends or eating like a madman and drinking like a madman as well. So it was a really 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 cool week. Amazing. Like I cannot recommend enough if someone can do that with their close friends, if they have the time and the means to do it. It's really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes to show that it's an important part of like playing the game and even taking it seriously is you do have to create these mental breaks, and even better if you're getting to do it with like a bunch of buddies, right? And just like having a good time. So I just always love seeing that, and that's like why the Sunflower Samurai is like, oh, this is like the perfect team, right? Like, because look at how much fun they're having.
They party harder, yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm all about the partying. So, and you mentioned board games. I think even in the tweet you mentioned the Slay the Spire board game, which recently came out. How are you enjoying that, and what are some other board games you're kind of into right now?
One of my friends has that game, but he doesn't live in my town, so we weren't able to play it. Right, he got it from the Kickstarter, and when he brought it to the retreat, I was so hyped to play it because I am a huge fan of the computer game. I have played much more hours than I want to admit on here, and it was amazing. I had an extremely good time. One of the things I do want to get implemented in the Slay the Spire 2 that is releasing next year, I believe, is a way to play on co-op, with your friends. So the board game allows you to do that. You are playing on 4 different lanes with different characters, and it is extremely fun. So I played it during the first day. I did play it during the second day. I did play it during the third day, and I was like, okay, maybe I should stop. Maybe I should probably stop playing this game. And I ended up playing like a couple times more, I believe. It was really cool because it has the same mechanic as in the computer game where you are doing these ascensions, right? Where you're making the game harder, and it gets cooler. So yeah, really cool. We have a huge amount of war games in there. We also have people playing an Arkham Horror LCG campaign, which I cannot recommend enough. If you guys have ever the need to play a co-op game, I do think Arkham is one of the best. It is a difficult one. Okay. It is not for all the players out there, but it is extremely cool if you like it.
Well, I mean, I love a good board game, and I love Slay the Spire. Actually, on my other podcast with my cousin, we talk about indie games. This week, we revisited Slay the Spire, and then, like, when I was writing up this show, I was like, oh, yeah, he was playing the Slay the Spire board game. I was like, and, our bud Gary has hyped it up as well, so, Yeah, Slay the Spire. I was looking at the amount of hours I put into that game as well when I went back to re-review it. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of hours into that game. Now let's get back to the game that connected us, Pablo. Flesh and Blood.
Beautiful.
The fresh faves. Last time we had you on, we did your fresh faves, your favorite cards in the game. Whenever we have a guest revisit, we just look at the most recent set, and I want to get your opinions on your favorite of that set. And that set is MST, Part the Misfail. Pablo, who was your favorite hero out of Part the Misfail?
This is a tricky one, because while I really think that maybe they are a little bit pushed, right? They are maybe a little bit more powerful than they should. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I do think it happened.
Mm-hmm.
They all are really cool, right? They are extremely cool designs, all three of them. Maybe because of my playstyle, Zen is the only one I could play a little bit less. I am not that much of a ninja player. Although I have played a little bit of Fi. I didn't know what happened in there, but it happened. But yeah, I did have an amazing time both with Enigma and Nu. If I had to say, I would say that Nu. Yeah, maybe she reminds me, and this whole set reminds me a little bit of Legend of the Five Rings, the game that I used to play.
Mm-hmm.
And it has that vibe to it, and I really enjoy it. But I have a lot of fun playing every hero on Part of Misfell, and I do think the limited of that set greatly benefit of the heroes being so interesting and so cool to play. Like the chi mechanic is really cool.
Very, very cool. You know, so cool. What if you could go get a chi when you block with equipment? That would be pretty cool too, right?
What happened when we overcreep?
No.
Balance of justice.
No more piling on. No more piling on. We're looking at Rosetta soon. But what was your favorite weapon out of MST?
Favorite weapon out of MST? I really, really like the cool, nice design of Cosmo, right? The Enigma's weapon. Because it obviously fits really well with her deck. It allows you to play in this kind of wide, right, strategy. While it also allows you to play this big, bad, extremely dangerous auras like, Miragai or 10K or something like that. But it also offers you the opportunity of switching up your weapon and playing with Refractor or how is it called? Iris of Reality, things like that. Like it is a really cool weapon that doesn't completely overshadow the other choices that you could be playing in your class. And I do think that's a really, really nice design. Really, really nice. But I also really like the new dagger. The new dagger is pretty cool as well, because I do think that a problem that assassins often face during games is when your opponent doesn't care about blocking at all, your daggers don't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So having a proactive dagger, a dagger that does something beneficial to you, not detrimental to your opponent, when it hits, it is really cool. And it is cool that it doesn't have the piercing trait.
Yeah.
Which is good in the other ones, because let's face it, the other daggers are not really good. They are not often that efficient to swing.
Sure.
They are not bad. They offer nice combinations with other cards, but most of the time that you're swinging a dagger, it's because you either have extra cards on hand, or that you're not very good at math and you should have blocked with that card. But yeah, it is really cool to have a different approach to daggers in Assassin. Sense weapon, it is really good math-wise, but it is not like really innovative or anything, so I will have to put it on the bottom of the list, sadly.
It's okay. Well, we can put Zen on the bottom of the list for now. Equipment. There was a lot of cool equipment in this set. What was your favorite?
I would say the most powerful one we know which one. Traverse is extremely powerful, but I probably think that my favorite equipment is Kasaya, Sen's chest, because I like the mechanic. I don't think that maybe it shouldn't have blocked for 2, maybe, or maybe shouldn't have created a Sen state, or I don't know. There's something that is extra in that card, right? It should have done a little bit less on somewhere, right? But having a chest that allows you to, have these explosive turns be even more powerful because it's generating you probably 1 to 3 resources on your big turn. It's amazing. I really like the design that you can also use it as a defensive piece, and I really like the art as well.
Yeah, I mean it looks incredible. Yeah, that's a cool one. I mean it definitely, I don't know. It definitely is maybe a little overtuned, but
It definitely is a card of less
but
game.
you know what? Listen, in a sea of really strong cards, it doesn't look as overtuned, right? So like that's what part the misfill was. Now, what was your favorite run of the mill card that you would throw into your deck? Your instants, your attack actions, non-attack actions.
That's a tricky one, right? My favorite card could probably be Prognosis, I believe.
Okay.
I really like Prognosis. I really like the mind games when your opponent is playing a Prognosis, they are holding a card in hand, and you have to guess, will they transcend and use Mask of Recurring Nightmares? Will they play Gastonic? Will they just arsenal that card and are they just trying to confuse me? So it offers like some really cool mind games where if you're playing like a card like Bonds of Agony, there's no mind game in there. It will get to 12 or 14 strength and it will strip a card from your hand. It's not being played in 2 cards hands.
Yeah. I mean, New does a lot of that cool stuff, right? And especially limited too. But like, I even like Prognosis in like Azuri and stuff like that was very cool.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, it's the same in Azuri.
Oh, yeah.
Because Azuri is now also running, Justinique, and she can switch the cards. She can just arsenal the last card if you overblock. So nice mental games. I really like what they did in there.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now, this is a new question we're asking. If you were in the region of Wraith, which class and talent would you be?
Oh, I would love. I don't know if I could be, but I would love to be a Guardian.
Okay.
It just fits. It feels good. And having a talent means going to Living Legend much, much faster than any other character in the game. So, yeah, I would choose a broken combination. Let's say, I don't know, ice cards seem good, right? And maybe you have to sprinkle a little bit of earth cards in there, maybe. Play a Crown of Seeds or something. I don't know. I would like to be a Guardian, but maybe I wouldn't like to have any talent. Maybe something that made me play different cards. I like when they release a hero that plays cards that haven't been revisited before. Like playing these traps out of Riptide was really fun because I honestly didn't know half of them. And seeing my opponents during a Pro Tour, not knowing what most of my cards were doing was really fun, or having to explain cards to them was really fun. So I would like, I don't know, a Guardian that cares about playing auras or attacking with hammers or something like that. Something strange.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, you almost want to, if you were going to give it a talent, you'd want to give it like a talent that does the opposite of what Guardian does, like lightning, like a lightning Guardian.
That could be cool as well.
Yeah. Or even like Shadow. I mean, giving a Guardian Carrying Husk seems crazy, but
I could have said if we didn't see Terra, I could have said an Elf Guardian without Crown of Seeds. But we have seen Terra, and the design is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not like extremely overhyped, right? Because we have seen extremely powerful heroes lately, and it is difficult to try to compare anything new to those. But yeah, something like that could be cool.
That'd be very cool.
I would like a hero that cares more about fusing, maybe. I do think that the fuse mechanic got completely forgotten. And it kind of seems like we won't get more fuse cards in this new set. Like they have moved past from that keyword, and they are using the new one where you have to pitch cards of the element. And yeah, I thought it was a cool mechanic because it made you play with your arsenal. But yeah, if you're removing cards like Crown of Seeds and things like that, it is harder to play around your arsenal and having impactful cards that you want to accent to arsenal that are also elemental cards. And well, not elemental, element cards, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we'll see what. I mean, actually, it's a great segue to talk about Rosetta. We'll see what they do at Rosetta in terms of like, what they're gonna do with mechanics, because we've seen like the flow cards for Lightning. I mean, we've seen just really the only things we've seen are the first strike decks, and it's hard to say how representative they are going to be of what the actual set is going to be like. Now, I believe there's some spoilers coming next week for anybody who wants to stay tuned. So that should be pretty interesting. Are you looking forward to Rosetta?
I am really looking forward to Rosetta. We have had, I would say, probably the best sets we have had in a long time, just back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just hoping LSS can kick it out of the park again and then have another great set. And I am really hyped about being able to play Runeblade again, right? I was really hyped when Dash Still Down came out. I finally could play my beloved Shadow Runeblade again. I don't know what happened with Dash but I don't remember any Shadow Runeblade from that set.
Okay. You don't remember any of it. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I run into new heroes on the table, right? I go to an armory or whatever, and I say, "Oh, I don't remember that hero." and
listen, but, the Vincent players out there, they are loyal,
hardcore fans.
Hardcore.
They are hard people.
Yes.
Loyal people. They will get rewarded.
They will. It reminds me of Levia before Dust Till Dawn.
Azalea. It's like the cult of Azalea, right? Before she started dominating. Well, metaphorically. But yeah, I expect some new toys to maybe make her a little bit more relevant, because she can do pretty cool stuff, but she has a horrible problem where her brick hands, right? We talked about Runeblade hands earlier. Your Runeblade hands are much, much worse when you also have to banish one of your cards because you are forced to. Why are you forced to at the start of your turn? Pretty strange mechanic in there, but I have to say that they made probably the good choice at being really respectful of the Shadow Runeblade pool, as Chain was extremely broken, right? It was one of the most broken decks we have ever had in Flesh and Blood. And I like that they are treating it carefully, but I'm a little bit sad, right? We moved from metas like Pro Tour Lille, where Runeblade was everything, right? The best deck was Briar. Viscerai was an extremely good deck as well during that tournament. We have Combo Viscerai being banned before the tournament. We have, Ball of Lightning being banned. Briar being reworked. The rise of the Earth builds with Channel Mount Heroic. Like, we had such a time of Runeblade dominating the game with Guardians. It just feels bad when neither Guardian nor Runeblade is playable right now, right? Every class deserves its spot in the sun at some point, but I feel sad without being able to play them just a little bit, right? And I do think, especially Florian design on the new set is really, really interesting. I wouldn't say good, because I don't know how the hell are you going to get 8 Earth cards on your bunnies while Sen is killing you on the second turn. But
we'll figure it out.
yeah, they seem to have an extremely cool design, and I'm really hyped to see what we can brew up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of Aurora, which certainly is going to be the more aggressive Runeblade, and probably
Oh yeah.
something closer to, well, obviously closer to Lightning Briar. Um, what are your thoughts there? Does she seem like perhaps might be the another aggro deck that we're gonna have to worry about in the meta?
You said earlier that we don't know much about the new decks,
Mm-hmm.
and we have only seen this first strike product. I like how they showed, right? They show us Aurora on those decks, and I do think she's the easiest one to figure out. Uh, I would have loved to see any of the other heroes because I don't have the slightest idea of how they are going to play, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I did have my idea of how Aurora was going to play, and I do think it's pretty obvious. She has a pretty good weapon if you have a blue card in your hand to both trigger her ability and attack for 2 and go again. And I do think she will be closer to what Briar was playing before the Ball of Lightning ban, right? You will want to play a lot of 0/4s. Lightning has a lot of really cool ones. She will probably be playing some buffs. We've seen like several iterations of +3 for 0 Lightning. She will have a lot of those. And, giving go again to things like Cossack of Motion or Snatch, or
Yeah.
all of these 0/4s with neutrals with no hit is pretty cool. But I don't think she will be as powerful as Briar was back during those days. Because Briar had another really powerful text where she would be blocking for 4 with her cards, right? And she also had. We still have to see a lot of cards from Aurora, and we have seen these dual cards, right? These cards that you can play both sides, and one of them is 0/5 would go again if you hit your opponent, which is pretty powerful and also blocks for 3.
Yeah.
So I expect her to have a lot of, over the curve with some cards with some degrees of varying difficulties to be able to fire, right? Maybe they will require you to play a lightning card. Maybe they will require you to hit or to do several things. And she will, of course, have the dreaded Runeblade hands that we have been talking about. But I do expect some extremely powerful plays from her, right? But I don't think that deck will be the surprising one. For one, I am extremely excited, not in a good way, but I'm excited to see how Osilio turns up, because everyone that has played card games competitively before and has seen combo decks knows that being able to filter your hand that quickly usually leads to pretty degenerate decks. And I'm a little bit suspicious. I know that the folks over at LSS do an extremely good job at balancing the game, and I haven't seen almost anything passed under the radar of broken cards. So they will for sure have balanced him pretty good, but I'm still a little bit scared of the ability of just using a lot of cards really quickly. We have also seen his sigil, which allows him to draw cards on the next turn. His weapon is really strange as well. And he can play this new channel lightning card that allows you to draw in the middle of the turn. So I'm not really sure about what he's going to do, but I'm pretty scared.
Yeah, I saw his sigil and the card draw on it, and I'm like, So, like, you're gonna know what's coming, right? Like, that the pop off turn is coming. I would assume, and you just imagine the fear. If it's a good combo, the fear that your opponents are going to feel. They're going to see the sigil, or actually, it can come out at lightning speed, instant speed, right? Or lightning speed, I guess. One and the same. So it's going to happen. They're like, oh no, it's too late. And this could be the end. So kind of interesting in that way, where it's going to be this setup deck where perhaps you don't see it. It's not going to be as telegraphed, I think, as like maybe Kano, and perhaps it's going to happen in a split second. It might be a little bit more of a glass cannon. So that's kind of interesting. Now, life gain on a wizard, Verdance. As someone who has played some very defensive decks in your day, what is Verdance? Is this something that you're interested in at all?
I am surprised about this one because we have talked about Osilio, and maybe he will, use the wizard boots, several cards to play cards from the top of his deck. He will use combo cards. He will use the cards that deal arcane damage, and he will try to somehow, we don't know how the deck works, but he will try to somehow combo you and kill you with arcane damage, right? But Verdance plays on a whole different axis. Like, she doesn't have any support from existing wizard cards, right? Maybe she can play some broken ones, but she's not using the cards that we have seen any other wizard play, right? She may be closer to Icelander playing, Fiendal Fight and Spirit Red on her turn and having a 9 value 2-card hand or something crazy like that. And I am pretty unsure of how good the life gain cards can be if they also deal damage, right? If they are not good enough, the hero will not be like good, right? And if they are way too good, it will have a problem. So I do think both her and Florian will be pretty hard to balance because both abilities seem so powerful, and we have only seen one Earth card that allows you to move cards into your banish zone, right? And they both need 8 cards on the banish to work. So I'm pretty surprised, right? Like, they both seem so powerful that maybe Earth is seeing a complete overhaul of how it worked back in the day, right? Because it's not a surprise to anyone that Earth was the weakest one out of the elements on Aria. It did have the most powerful piece of equipment, but as an element, it wasn't as good, right? At least when it didn't have +2 go again and dominate from our good friend Starbo. But I don't know. Both heroes seem extremely exciting to build around because they do have such an awesome payoff. Like, Verdance's specialization is gain 1, gain 1, gain 1, which if you have your ability turn on, it's a blue card that blocks for 3, deals 3 damage, and gets you 3 life with go again, right? We're talking about 6 points of value in a single card, blocking 3 blue with go again. That's insane. That's insane. So I am really looking forward to how these characters will play. It's difficult trying to figure out what is coming for Earth, because the attack that we have seen also, it's extremely powerful.
Yeah,
the majestic attack we have seen, it can force your opponent to discard cards. You can play it without having any cards on your hand. So it's coming in for 8, I believe, right? It's a 2-card 8 that also removes cards from your opponent's hand. So it does seems extremely powerful as well. So all of these Earth cards seem so powerful that I do expect that you will have to do a lot of work around to get to that point where you are doing crazy things. And I do like those kinds of decks, even if they maybe are not good enough in this meta that we have right now. They are really, really cool decks, and the ability of creating 2 tokens every time you're creating an aura or everything, and the ability to turn these gain life cards into also dealing damage. It seems so cool to have in the game.
Oh yeah, it seems so cool. And like, even if you just put it in the reference of like the frame of reference of like Viserai, right? What Viserai need to do to double Viserai's tokens. And like, you had to play a card. You had to play Mordred Tide, right? And if Florian is off to the races, you you can create either rune chants. I think you can make, or I guess it's any aura token. So
Yeah.
the embodiments as well. So then that even gets a little crazy.
And I do think that they will have access to creating embodiments like much more easily than we have seen up to this point.
Oh yeah. So I think they're all very exciting. The Earth ones are more exciting for me. Acilio, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head that is the scariest.
Yeah.
And Aurora probably, I mean, and for good reason. I think Aurora should probably kind of be middle of the road. We don't need another crazy aggro deck, so we'll see. Now we've seen you mentioned the dual cards. Do you think there's going to be any more twists in the card design from what we've seen, or they're being pretty telegraphed about? This is it, right? It's going to be a really cool set with a lot of flavor, and the dual cards are the big twist.
I saw some people say that we have seen almost every dual card being spoiled already. Like,
oh, wow.
There won't be, because of the numbers, right? These people are doing these spreadsheets, which are awesome, and I don't know how they conjure these magical powers to make them work, right? But they did say that we have seen almost every dual card, so I wouldn't expect a lot of changes from that point. I do think they are really, really powerful. Like, I was really surprised by their power level, and I do think it's a cool design, right? It is really cool to see new mechanics pop off with each new set. I do think it keeps the game fresh, and it makes limited much more interesting, right? So I do believe that maybe we had a lot of surprises with Part of the Misvale, and we had a much simpler set in Heavy Hitters. I do think we will have a pretty simple set this time around with some surprises. I do expect some really specific cards to be crazy, to do extremely strange things, right? No, not crazy in their power level, but crazy in what they are able to do, right? Especially on the equipment side.
Yeah.
I don't know how they have thought about replacing Crown of Seeds. Maybe they even haven't thought about that and they will just forget about doing something like that. But I am looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah, me too. Now, do you think, now, I guess we're probably going to have another banned and suspended announcement. So it's really hard to say. Are there any big winners coming out of, or in the meta coming out of Rosetta, whether it's these heroes or existing heroes, or are we just still living in Zen's world and we're going to have to see it sort out?
I do think that Zen at least will have probably a harder time against Wizards, right? Because as they don't often attack you, you don't have the possibility of sending your equipment and dealing a million damage. But a lot of people don't seem to realize that ninjas have a lot of ways to adapt to their opponents. So if Zen wants to dedicate a few sideboard slots, to bring Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, and maybe some Arcane Barrier, they have easy access to Arcane Lantern or things like that. So they can bring pretty dedicated decks to beat Wizards. I don't think Kano is a bad matchup for Zen at all, if Zen is prepared for the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So Earth Heroes seem a tad bit too slow to deal with him right now. And at least for now, if Lightning cards don't offer you much more value than they have done up till this point, I don't think you will be able to race against Zen. Like, we have seen that no deck up till this point has been able to race with him, right? You need disruption. Like, Lexi would be a pretty good counter to Zen because he could maybe play, several attacks into a lake or several attacks into 3 Frostbites or things like that. But even then, Zen is a deck that is playing a lot of blues, like almost 30 blues. So he should have a good time against Wizards, or an okay time against Wizards. Because you are never really having a lot of fun if you're playing against Wizards in this game. Like, playing them is really fun, right? Like, I love playing Icelander and I love playing Kano. I have played both of them on really high level events. But you sometimes are playing Kano and you stop and you see your opponent, and your opponent is not having a good time, right? They are not. They're just sitting there, waiting to see if they get killed, or if they win the game, and they are not doing a lot of a lot of decisions in that regard. So yeah, I expect new wizards to be much more, interactive for your opponent. What is not interactive is throwing your whole suite of equipment, block for 7, and then deal 40 plus damage in your turn. So for now, at least, I don't expect any of the new decks to be able to beat Sen, but they will probably shake the meta a little bit, because if everyone has to prepare a little bit for wizards, the sideboard slots in each of our decks are so precious nowadays. You have to prepare against so different decks that it will probably shake down the meta a little bit. I love our boy Riptide, but wizards are not good for him. That's no good to hear, right? So I expect some decks that are hanging in there around the tier 1 to be much worse, and maybe decks like Prism will get much, much better.
Yeah.
Decks that are already pretty good, because Prism is already pretty good in this meta.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we'll see. This is all very sad. You told me the Riptide's not going to be doing well. I knew it. I knew.
We don't know. We don't know yet.
We don't know yet. Yeah, we got it.
His card is really powerful, though.
That new card, yeah. So cool.
Really, really good.
Now, the limited experience, it's hard to say, but the past 2 limited experiences, in my opinion, have been great. MST and Heavy Hitters, I enjoyed them quite a bit. MST kind of being what some people are saying, the pinnacle of the limited experience in Flesh and Blood. Do you think Rosetta's going to match that excellence?
I do expect they can do it, right? They have been doing better and better each time with the new sets. They have solved the problem of legendaries in packs with the expansion slot and moving legendaries in there. They have done a much more smoother way of drafting, because you can change between classes much more easily if there are a higher generic count, right? I really like Outsiders, though. A lot of people forget about that set, and I really like the draft with 6 heroes. I really like how that worked. And drafts are limited. It's still not perfect, right? I would like to say that sealed and draft are really different, right? Because I like what they did with the 30 card limit on decks and giving more packs for sealed, because sometimes sealed feels a little bit bad when you open your 6 packs and you don't have really enough to play any of the heroes, right? So giving you a little bit more of power, I believe it's good. It helps balance decks on the tournament. And draft is a whole other beast, right? It is self-correcting up to a certain point. You can have cool drafts where everyone knows that the hero is broken, right? Like Arya was a good draft deck format, and it was not a good sealed format. Because while drafting, you know there will be a lot of Briars on the table because the deck is better, but you can play around it, right? It was almost the same as Uprising, although Uprising was not that good because Fi was so much better than the other 2 that you may have seen tables with 5 Fis and a Fi winning the pot, and it's like, okay, this shouldn't be happening, right? But yeah, I expect them to do well in this format. I just wish that we could maybe move past the broken Majestic cards that ruin your experience sometimes, because part of Mistveil was such an amazing experience, such a good format up until your opponent plays a Mirror Guy. This is amazing, and then your opponent plays a Mirror Guy, and it is not amazing anymore. It is not, right? You may have a pick 2 pieces in your hand and 2 attack reactions, and pray to God that you're going to catch your opponent with some cheese in their hand, and you will be able to remove that from the board, because it is insane the amount of value some of this Majestic can bring, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was mostly the illusionist ones in this set. Mirror Guy was insane. Coalescence was insane because it was so easy to draft a red manifestations and do an insane turn. But we also had just a Nick.
Yeah.
And or bonds of agony and cards like that on the set, which are extremely powerful. And it can warp your whole deck. And it doesn't feel, and I say that as a person who has been benefit of having some of these transcend specialization cards of the new heroes during those Pro Tour games or things like that, which are extremely powerful and give you a really good advantage over your opponent, right? So I would like to see some of these extremely powerful Majestics move to the expansion slot, or I don't know. I don't know how we can see a solution in there, but it is sad that sometimes you open your packs and see a card and know that you are going at least 2-1 on this pod and probably 3-0, right? One of my friends during going to the Pro Tour had on the second day draft had Miragai, Coalescence, this defense reaction that draws if you play with a chi, this specialization, Dense Blue Mist, like 5 Majestics, right? He opened a powerful Majestic in each of his packs, and people passed him more Majestics, and it was the most insane deck that I have ever seen. And of course, he went 3-0, right? Yeah. And he didn't have to do anything. He opened his first pack, he saw a Miragai, we take the Miragai. Next pack, a Coalescence, we take the Coalescence. Oh, Enigma Specialization, and it's like, okay, maybe cards so powerful make really interesting, really well-designed sets a little bit cool when you are on the receiving end of those unfair cards, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that it's unfortunately a product of illusionists too, because these things not only are really good, but they stay around, in a game that doesn't really have a lot of permanence, right? So I'm not as I would say I'm not as worried about Rosetta having that issue, but strong Majestics, and they say they want newer players to kind of be able to win some stuff. So I understand why they push the Majestics in a way, like give us some bombs, but
of course.
But not that far. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. As long as I'll be happy as long as there's no Mirror Guy in this set, I think, because I've lost to it too, and I'm like, oh man, that was.
You don't like being swinged for 10 with something that stays on board while they arsenal a defense reaction and turn over a World 1 gloves. Yeah, it feels so good. Why are you complaining?
Oh man, well, we are going to ask you some listener questions, Pablo, as we get ready to say goodbye. Nice. These come from the Buds. The Buds are in the Buds Discord, which is free for anybody to join us in the show notes below. First question, we did kind of touch on this in the beginning, but Orc Knight, a.k.a. Jesse Harper, asked, what was the ultimate deciding factor that made you bring Riptide? We covered that, but is Riptide a hero you can see yourself playing more in the future depending on how Rosetta shakes out?
Yeah. I definitely think I will be playing more Riptide in the future. I didn't think he had enough legs to be able to stand up to some of the big bad bosses of the meta, but he's doing really well. And I do think you can, with the new Riptide Armory deck, right? You have a lot of new options to play around. Finally, we're seeing some pretty powerful aim counter payoffs. And I do think there is a deck to be discovered in there. There's probably a much more aggressive deck to be discovered in there. And I'm really, really excited to start tinkering with his cards a little bit. So even if he's not really good in the next meta game, and I am not so sure he will be if there are wizards going around, I will love to play him. And I had an extremely cool time playing him on Amsterdam.
Well, there you have it. I think that just means you're going to play him in Osaka, right? And and win. Next question comes from Pat Shaw. Where do you shop? Am I the only one that considers his scarves and denim iconic? I guess it's more of like the second question is to the general public, but it's more of a compliment to you. You're a very stylish fellow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is the most beautiful thing I have been said in quite a long time. So on the scarf side of things, most people don't know this, but this is actually a meme or a joke, right? That we had back in the day, and I am talking about a long time ago, like 15 years ago, more probably. When I started playing card games, I was playing the old Legend of the Five Rings, a game that instead of having heroes, had clans, right? And you could be playing, I don't know, the Phoenix clan or the Dragon clan or whatever. And I was a craft player. I have always been a craft clan player, really defensive, really guardian, right? So the first time that I made a top on a big tournament, and I was like 14, 13 years old, something like that. I have been playing since a long time. Card games have been my passion for the whole life. And the first time that I made a top cut, my friends told me, "Hey, have you seen every other guy from your clan that has made top has a scarf?" And I was like, "Oh, I have to get a scarf for tomorrow." And we got the scarf, and it has been a joke since those days. But I have grown fond of them, and I do use them daily. So it was kind of a joke that turned into me really liking them, right? And I have always kind of dressed the same way. I don't think I buy at any specific shop. It's not hard to find any shirts or anywhere, right? It is a pretty common piece of manware. And the only thing that I am a little bit sad about playing on a team is that we do have to play with our team shirts, right? I really like my team shirt, but during these really hot summers, I really like having shirts on me, right? This, and I love Hawaiian shirts. I have a lot of them. So it's kind of sad that I am not able to rock them to tournaments anymore, right? On hot places, but I am really happy. There was quite some memes with that back during Pro Tour Lille, because I went to every tournament just on my sandals and on Hawaiian shirts and everything, and the people was like, "This guy is not taking this seriously," and I am like, I'm having a stroke of heat right now. Like, please let me let me wear the coolest thing I can, right? I have to not die from heat in here.
Comfort is so important, so I totally understand that. Totally understand it. Next question comes from William from the Table Pit, who asks, MST Pack 1 Pick 1, do you pick a red card or a blue card?
Red cards always. Yeah. Like, even if this set cares about strange mechanics with cheese and, well, if the blue card is a miracle, I would play the blue card. I would pick the blue card. But barring powerful majestics, I would almost always pick an equipment or a red card. If it can be a red generic card that is powerful, the better, because you can stay open a little bit during the pod. It is often a good thing to know what you should be drafting, right? What your city is. If not, there are pretty cool red cards in almost every class. Attack reactions, a really cool aura or a 4 strength go again attack on Sen. So it's pretty cool. Even if the set cares about, as I was saying, if the set cares about blue cards, play the basics. Pitching your blue cards and playing your red cards is often a good way to win games of Flesh and Blood. And, and it was my intention on heading to any draft game of Pardon Miss Veil.
That's Flesh and Blood 101, I would say. Red card's good, blue card's good for pitching. Sigma asks, is Riptide easily fatigable by defensive decks that have weapons like pistol, hammer, or club?
Ooh, this is a really interesting one. I thought so before playing the deck, but I don't know if you guys have seen the deck that I was playing at Pro Tour Amsterdam, but that deck is playing 72 cards onto the matchups where you could be fatigued, and you're playing 3 remembrances, which efficiently make your deck go up to 78 cards, right? And you're also playing the Quiver of Abyssal Depths, which makes you play 81 cards, and you're taking back into your deck Murky Waters, and if they hit, you get another card, right? And it gets kind of insane at some point. Like I was trying to do it with Guardian, right? I'm going to swing with an Athos for every turn, and then I will be blocking with 2 cards, and I will 100% fatigue Riptide, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Your Dreadbore is also helping you being efficient with your breakpoints. The deck has a lot of 7 for 2 hand 7 strength. You can do some pretty powerful things with Codex, which is completely balanced than for a card. And you also have your gloves for a +4. You will be dealing, even if you're playing against a deck that doesn't trigger almost any traps, you will still be dealing 6 to 10 damage against them. So it is pretty hard to fatigue Riptide if your deck is a dedicated list for it. If you're playing like a more aggressive version of Riptide with only a few traps, a lot of pumps, a lot of 0/4 arrows, it is pretty easy to fatigue you, as it is to fatigue Aslia, but you don't have the ability to dominate your attacks. Yeah, you do have like the ability to do wider turns when you play cards like Rain Razors, but I do think that defensive decks won't have a difficult time fatiguing you.
There you have it. So you got to just play 72 with 3 remembrances, and then you're fine. Don't even worry about it.
You want to make a lot of friends, but you will not get fatigued.
Yeah, when what really matters, right? You know. Capolo asks, which new country do you think would be the best to visit for a Pro Tour or Worlds? Past and currently scheduled do not count.
Ooh. Ooh. This is a really difficult one. Which one would be really cool? I haven't been. One of the things I haven't done, and it's pretty easy, and I don't know why I haven't traveled there in my whole life, is Greece. I haven't been to Greece, and I don't think it would be that silly to have a tournament in there. It's a pretty nice spot to visit. I do think that Germany is not that good because they have these laws where they cannot give price payments. But that could also be a really cool place to be. And maybe we could have some of the newer countries, right? We do have a tournament in Japan now, but maybe if Brazil or South America or whatever is starting into the game, I would like to visit new places. And really, anywhere in Asia would be pretty cool as well, right? I don't know. I would be just excited to go any place that is different to where we have been. And I don't think it can go much worse than San Jose, right? Like that was an experience. It was worse than Baltimore. People don't believe me. Like I had a worse time in San Francisco than I had in Baltimore.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like Baltimore as a town, so I didn't even go to San Jose, but I heard it was not that great. But I would pick Iceland or Dublin, Ireland.
Ooh, Dublin would be really good.
Dublin would be a lot of fun. I mean, we wouldn't get much playing done, I don't think. I think it would be more partying.
It wouldn't be the highest level of play we have seen in a premier event.
Yeah, high in certain ways. Then the final question comes from Greg, aka Darth Prentice. What would your ideal PvE fab product be?
Ooh, I have been expecting news about the PvE for so long. I have almost lost my, my passion for it. But I would love to see something similar, and we have talked about it a little bit earlier. But if we could have something similar to Arkham Horror LCG, like, yeah, I know that things like the experience system would be difficult, but kind of not a big boss battle, but instead traveling. And I do think there's like a project of a PvE that is also a dungeon crawler or something like that already on the community.
Mm-hmm.
But something like that, right? Where you have to advance through a scenario or something, or fight different bosses or whatever, and you have different missions on this journey, right? Maybe a journey to defeat a big bad boss, and you can swap some cards or something. You can maybe start with Iron Rod Helm and a really bad weapon or whatever, and you're upgrading your deck across different games, and you're something like that could be really cool. I think, and a good introduction to some more lore of the game, which I don't think a lot of people pay enough attention to. And I do think it would be a great hit, at least for my group of friends.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would open up a lot, right? You know, I think there would be some fad players that exist already that really love it, and then also people that don't even know about the game that will discover it through there, and then they're like, "Wait, there's a competitive scene? Whoa!" It's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I would say, Pablo, this was a fun episode yet again. I love having you on. I love chatting with you. You're just awesome. You've been a great bud. Please plug anything you'd like to plug, and thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me here again. And there's not a lot of people who have me on their show 2 times and left and scared of of having me again. But yeah, it has been a pleasure. I'm really happy to be here on the 3rd anniversary. That's so much. Not missing a single week, right? That's so amazing. We also have a podcast in Spanish, and we do miss a lot of weeks. So I don't know where the strength of will comes out to be able to do this for so long. But kudos, really, really, really amazing to do this for the community. So yeah, I just want to thank my friends as always. I would like to thank any store if I have any of them near me, but I sadly don't. So I will just stick to thanking my friends and my teammates, which have been always there for me. The Sunflower Samurais. I know our community manager is so happy because we have finally passed the 1,000 followers on Twitter. So there we are.
Yeah. Well, please check them out. Please check Pablo out. Please check out Pablo's Patreon. It's all awesome. You can continue to find me on Twitter at freshbudspod. Check out the YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, Discord, Patreon, Fresh Juice, the podcast I do with my cousin about indie games. That comes out weekly as well. And then finally, Pablo, what's some food you're enjoying right now that we can talk about?
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I did have the most insane burritos I have ever had during our summer retreat.
Oh, yeah?
And I am trying to steal the recipe from my friend who made them. That's what I'm trying to do right now. They were like insane. I don't even like them, but I don't know what he did. It was magic. It was amazing.
Well, whenever you get the recipe, just shoot it over to me and we'll make it public. Much to your friend chagrin. But thank you so much, Pablo. That's going to do it for the show. We don't have time for Charmer. We'll get to him next week. You're all the best. Please stay fresh.